All right. Welcome to my podcast. I'm going to review Troy Black prophecy fulfillment. A couple other people have made videos on this just in the last few days. Coincidental timing. I've had this in the works for a little while, and I would say not so coincidental. But anyway, we have morphing prophecies. We have a disappearing prophecy, and we've got sleight of hand going on. I'm going to demonstrate and show this all to you right here. So let's go to Troy's website. He's got troyblackvideos.com. He's got his prophecy archive, and this is prophecy highlights. This is Troy's greatest hits on his own website. And the very first one here, the description is Russian oil price spike. He called it a skyrocket in the video. We'll get into that here a little bit. But what he's got here is he's got his prophecy archive. He's got linked videos, the original video, and then the follow up that supposedly shows the fulfillment. And then over here, the evidence. So he's got the prophecy and the explanation of the fulfillment. So in this original video, he's got Russian oil prices are going to skyrocket in November. No dispute there. This is what the Holy Spirit told me to share. He said, "Tell my people not to be afraid." Indeed, not undisputed. Troy also shared an image of an eagle morphing into a vulture. He shared that because of November's developments, people who usually act like eagles will act like vultures instead, meaning they would respond out of fear and go for the leftovers instead of the best cut. Now, what he's leaving out of that was that he had details in there that had to do with nations, not just with people, not people in general. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. But what I do dispute about this is what he did not share in here. Now let's go to this. He prophesied an oil boom in Southeast Asia that would happen in 2021.
Said, but there's going to be an oil boom in Southeast Asia next year. That's what I heard. So Russian oil prices are going to skyrocket in November, but there's going to be an oil boom in Southeast Asia next year. And so I know, y'all, this is a very specific word. I'm just, if I'm being honest, I have been praying about this word for weeks nonstop.
He prayed for weeks nonstop that there was going to about an oil boom that was going to happen in Southeast Asia. So let's just, was there an oil boom in Southeast Asia in 2021? Let's see what it says. No, there was no oil boom in Southeast Asia in 2021. Rather, the region experienced a dip in oil consumption and imports due to reduced travel and the pandemic. Key factors in 2021: production decline. So that did not come to pass at all. And notice that's not in his prophecy highlights here. He didn't mention that in there. That was it just disappeared. So it did not happen. It did not come to pass. That's the first thing that I want to show. Now, Russian oil prices are going to skyrocket in November. So this is the part of his prophecy that, again, let's go back to here. Russian oil spike. Russian oil prices are going to skyrocket in November. Now I want to show you something here. This is pretty clever what he did. Okay. So you see this here, ESPO, that's Eastern Siberia Pacific Ocean. That is a particular brand of oil within the Russian crude oil market, but it is not the whole of Russian crude oil. There are three basic brands. And okay, so here's ESPO, and that's about 15% of the Russian market. And then let's go over here to, yeah, we'll go by, that looks about right. You see the name of this brand? That's Sokol. That is another brand that makes up about 5% of the Russian market. There is another oil that makes up the Russian market. It's called the Urals. This is 80% of Russia's crude oil market. So if the prices were going to skyrocket for Russian crude oil, Urals is probably the one that you want to be looking at to verify that and validate that. Okay. But we've got Sokol, which is 5%. And then we got the ESPO. Oh, let's get back to that. This is his own video. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay. This is his own video. He's showing the Sokol. And here's the ESPO. Okay, now he's back to the Sokol again. I want to get to where he shows this supposed fulfillment of this, a skyrocket. Now, this is late 2019 up here, somewhere in the mid 60s, $70 a barrel. We had the shutdowns with COVID that happened, and people were not traveling around. The price of crude oil tanked, and we were in shut lockdowns in this area. Okay, there was a modest recovery here, but you see where the normal prices were still up here, and they're selling down here. This is about the point right here in September where Troy gave his prophecy. September 10th.
Right.
September 10th, right about here is where he gave the prophecy. And right in here is where he's claiming this fulfillment. And again, this is Sokol oil. That's the crude oil that makes up 5%. And he shows a $35.89, about $36 to $49, about a $13 spike there. But what I want to show you here is that this spike goes down. It dropped down. It did. And there's a low there. And then he shows the high of the month, but he doesn't show this dip down like, what was that? Maybe the last 5 or 6 days of the month. There's a drop down. That's probably $2 to $3 a barrel. I don't have the exact price. But that wasn't exactly. So leaving out that little detail, he's saying this is a $13 increase, something like 30%. Well, that number looks a bit different when you look at that little detail there. Okay. Here's the other thing. I want to bring this graph over to the back to the ESPO one. So we're at 316. All right. Watch this. Watch the graph move. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. There we are. Okay, 239. All right. And then 322. Watch this. Watch that graph move. ESPO. Now watch it dip down further. You see where that dip dropped down? There was a bigger fluctuation with Sokol oil in November. It was at a lower, and it went up to, they all went up pretty close to the same selling price at their peak. But he makes it look, with this fluctuation, he makes it look like there was a bigger spike than that there was. But I want to say that this spike, and there was a spike, there was an increase, but compared to the average over these other months, look at that. If you look at the average, the increase from October to November was about a 10, 11, 12% increase. So this is a little bit of sleight of hand. It should have been tested in Urals. It definitely was not a skyrocket. It was a modest recovery, but definitely not a skyrocket. So I'm going to call this one a sleight of hand. Let's go to the next one. So the next detail in this, tell my people to fear not. Okay. And then he had this part of the prophecy that had to do with that fear not. This is really general and vague, and you could literally say this anytime and claim a fulfillment anytime with anything. So let's just get to the last part, the morphing eagle. And again, in the video, he mentioned, let's get to this. I'm going to get to the video, and let's go to the transcript, and I'll find that exact part where it says about that's about nations. And we'll go to a control F function, nations or nation. Oh, that's in the explanation. Let's go to the video itself. This is the original prophecy video. And we'll go to a control F. Okay, here he is. He's talking about the vision I got between the eagle and the vulture. And I believe the way it was related that a lot of us were going to be acting like eagles right now, and even nations that are acting like eagles right now are going to start acting like vultures. So his prophecy was that nations, people and nations that are acting like eagles are going to act like vultures. So this is a morphing thing. Now I want to talk about symbolism and prophecy. There was a baker and a cupbearer in Pharaoh's Egypt, right? Joseph, they had their dream, and Joseph interpreted the dream and said what it meant, and then it came to pass. Joseph had his dream of the famine coming and that he would be elevated to be a ruler over his brothers, and then it came to pass. And when dreams or visions are given and then there's an interpretation and then it comes to pass, it's not prophecy to throw a symbolism out there and then retrofit symbolism after the fact. That's prophetic manipulation. You don't get to do that. You just don't get to do that. But in the fulfillment of this, he's claiming finally the vision of an eagle forming into a vulture was an image of how someone would respond to the 2020 election. Many metaphorically went after leftovers after Trump did not regain the White House. This looked like people predicting Trump would secure the presidency or return to the White House by certain dates in 2021. So he's claiming this. Where's this at? Let me see. This is that. He's claiming this article covers this. And in August of 2021, July of 2021 is the date here. People were claiming that Trump was going to be seated in the White House. Still, even many months later, there were a handful of prophets that were doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on false prophecy. And he's saying that this is the fulfillment of the portion of the prophecy where the vultures morphed into eagles. And I'm saying that he's morphing prophetic symbolism into a fulfillment that's just not real. It didn't happen. So let's get back to this. The archives. These are the claim. He falls back on his video, says that he has 120 fulfilled prophecies that he's got documented. He mentions this over and over in his videos. He does have an archive. It does go back to, well, let's click on the archive itself and see this. He does have an archive, 10 highlights, Troy's greatest hits, recently added, and he goes all the way back to 2020, 2022. Okay. He's got an awful lot of them. We can go here to videos. I want to show you something though. He's got videos, and most of these have like 9 of them per page, and he's got 122 pages. That's well over 1,000. Annually, he averages over 150 videos a year with prophetic claims. Just like the video that I just reviewed that had 3 or 4 different prophetic claims on the one video. Some of his videos have 4 or 5 prophetic claims, and he has 1 claim fulfillment on this. So this is literally 1,000 videos multiplied many times over as far as how many prophecies are on these. And he claims 125 fulfilled. And what I'm saying, what I'm trying to point out here is that there's an extremely very small fraction that have even been reviewed. That's a red flag. Another red flag is that the guy who's reviewing it is full-time staff for Troy. He's paid. And most people, most human beings will not bite the hand that feeds them. That's just a fact of human nature. The other thing is that it's his own brother. That's another red flag. His own brother is the one doing the prophecy reviews. And so what I found and what I'm going to be showing a little bit here more and more is that a lot of these are very vague. They can be fulfilled where he's claiming specific fulfillments. A lot of them can be fulfilled over and over again with things that literally happen every single year. And there are multiple prophecies. I've gone over quite a few of them now. And so in the future, I will be showing more and more of that. So, hey guys, test all things, hold fast to that, which is good. This is Prophetic Sleight of Hand, and I'm going to stop here. God bless you.